tonight on the Final Play.
On second and short, good night, and the ball is free.
The Saints dropped the ball in their second preseason game a lot. Find out how they got back to the drawing board as training camp is phased out.
It's hard to be productive offensively if you have 4 turnovers, so that part of it was sloppy.
We'll look at what needs to be addressed and how the rookies have progressed. Plus,
those guys were trying to, use me in certain situations that I didn't agree with, so I just felt like the best thing for me to do was kind of move on.
From St. James to LSU and now Mississippi Gulf Coast College. Hear what Lowell Narcisse has to say about his new home. And the start of the college football season is just 12 days away. We'll take a look inside camp at all of our local schools.
From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Final Play, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealer, built Ford tough, and Nissan.
Welcome into the Final Play. I'm Juan Kincaid. 25 days later, and Saints training camp is officially closed. Following today's final workout over on Airline Drive, we find ourselves knowing a lot more about this team than we did when camp kicked off back on July 25th. Sean Vazan gets us started tonight.
We've reached the midway point of the preseason. Training camp is now officially over, though the evaluation is still ongoing.
As far as the players staying in the hotel and how we'll practice, but that's still going on, where that evaluation is still taking place.
After the Saints' 20-15 loss to Arizona, some things have gotten more clear, while other things need more discussion. Take backup quarterback. Taysom Hill has been the most talked about player in this camp. But in his time with the first team, he struggled and accounted for 4 turnovers. When his night was over, his quest to take the number 2 job likely took a hit.
I got to be better. It's a frustrating night. It's tough to win a football game when you have 4 turnovers. So I thought there was definitely some good things, but it's hard to look past having 4 turnovers.
But while Hill's night was one he'd like to forget, the starting offensive line played and dominated, and they look ready for the regular season.
I thought early in that game, that first unit did a good job blocking the run. Protection was solid, so it was good to see Anderson there and all of those guys, working together.
In the running back battle to fill the void Mark Ingram will leave behind for the first 4 games of the season, Jonathan Williams has emerged as the front runner. He followed up his solid work against Jacksonville with another good night. He gained 36 yards on 7 carries.
I just go out there whenever they tell me to go out there and perform as well as I can.
The search for a quality return man is starting to narrow, and wide receiver Brandon Tate has settled at or near the top. He took the opening kickoff 40 yards, and Sean Payton certainly noticed.
He can play a couple different roles. He can run still. He can line up out wide. That's probably where we'd use him most. But I think, he makes this team because we feel like he really helps us as a kick and punt returner.
Up next for the Saints, a trip out west for joint practices with the LA Chargers. Then it's the all-important 3rd preseason game. This is the game where the starters play the most amount of snaps they'll play all preseason. With the Saints in Metairie, I'm Sean Fazan for the Final Play.
Thanks a lot, Sean. Our Saints coverage continues tomorrow night with Deuce McAllister and yours truly on the Black and Gold Review Show. Now's the time to get your questions in for the crew to answer. Pull up the Final Play app, click on the Final Word feature. The Black and Gold Review Show gets underway tomorrow night, 10:35, right here on Fox 8. Nice to welcome to the Final Play for the first time Luke Johnson, who covers the Saints with NOLA.com, and the Times-Picayune. 2 preseason games in the books for the Saints. What do you think Sean Payton's thoughts are on his team after those first 2 games?
Well, yeah, I think it's kind of been a mixed bag for 2 weeks. The first week we only saw them use first team for really only 1 series. Yeah. They were on for 3 or 4 series, depending on how you look at it in the second week. So I think he saw his defense improve from week 1 to week 2. But then the offense kind of took a step back, especially with the backup quarterbacks. The receivers were another big issue. So, there's been I think hit and miss pretty much everywhere. And I think that's why this 3rd preseason game is so important.
We hear Sean Payton talk about assignment and alignment all the time, but when he's having problems with guys that are veteran players like a Ted Ginn Jr., he called out to the second game, getting lined up correctly, not once but twice, is his message getting across?
I think it is. I think we saw Ted Ginn out there in practice the other day, and he was he was very focused. Yeah. It's funny seeing that in the guy who's been out there for so long, in this league. He was locked in and doing the things he was supposed to do. And sometimes that you need to call out a player, even if he is a veteran like Ted Ginn Jr. You need to say something and make sure he stays in line. Make
sure they're setting the example for younger players. I know we want to put so much blame on Taysom Hill, but he did struggle. And Peyton said it wasn't all his fault. But at the end of the day, holding on to the ball is holding on to the ball. He may have handed this backup job to Tom Savage, you think? Too soon?
I think it's too soon.
Okay.
Taysom Hill's that was his second game ever playing quarterback in a Saints uniform. He can really do some things. And when you put an athlete like that back there with a creative offensive mind like Sean Payton, I think there are some opportunities for him to do some really good things. Obviously, that was a setback for him. He's got to take better control of the ball. One of those interceptions wasn't his fault. The 2 sacks were, and the deep shot downfield. The guy made a great play on it, but
maybe the receiver should have made a play as well to help him out.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's a little too early to say that. Tom Savage hasn't really done a lot to just really stand out in my eyes the way Taysom has in spurts. So I want to see him get another shot and see what they can do this week.
Are we not talking enough about JT Barrett? I mean, the 2 games he's been in, he scored touchdowns.
I think JT's improved a lot as camp has gone on. He was not really impressive in the first week or so, and that's kind of what you should expect out of a rookie quarterback coming in. But maybe we can see a little bit more of him, especially in the 4th preseason game, but to make more of an assessment there.
Okay.
But I don't think he should be in the mix between him and Tom Savage.
So a lot of fans have been asking me in the grocery store and everywhere else, they don't think the answer to Drew Brees' backup, a replacement, or second coming is in this team right now. What do you think?
Might not be.
Yeah.
I think they got to see some improvement. You really don't know who's going to be out there. I don't think they should go out and trade for somebody like Teddy Bridgewater. But it's a possibility if they don't impress in the next couple games that we could see somebody maybe brought in. But you'd just like to see a little bit more out of the 2 guys competing for that backup job.
On the running back side of things, Mark Ingram's been really good in preseason, which makes it really hard to say we're not going to have him for the first 4 games. But they may not be as bad off without Ingram as we first initially thought. Jonathan Williams has done well. Shane Vereen's looked well. Terrence West has done a good job as well. They've got some good pieces there that may soften the blow a little bit.
They really do. I really like Jonathan Williams.
Yeah, very good.
I think he caught a really bad break coming out of Arkansas. He could have been a higher draft pick. Maybe somebody would give him a little bit more rope than they did in Buffalo. But he's shown himself to be an NFL running back here, I think. And don't forget Boston Scott either. They really like the rookie 6th rounder out of Louisiana Tech. And Sean Payton said Saturday that he wants to see him get more opportunities in the running game. So maybe we'll see that this week in LA.
We tend to focus so much on the guys running the ball, but this offensive line has been maybe way above the expectation. We knew they would be good, but I think it's been the stellar point of this offense so far. And there's not such depth issues as we might have thought.
Well, I think the fact that all 5 are healthy right now, and we saw all 5 starters in there this week, was noticeable. They ran for, I think, 2 drives. They ran for something like 58 yards on the ground. Health has been an issue for that group, but when they're all there, they're really, really good. Ryan Ramczyk, I think, is going to be quickly becoming one of the best tackles in the league. Depth, I'm not sure if I'm ready to agree with you on that. Jermon Bushrod is long in the tooth. Josh Larubius has looked pretty good. Outside of that, they've got a lot of young guys. So we'll watch that a little bit in LA.
On the defensive side of the ball, the big news coming up this week, of course, them going to LA to practice there. But Marcus Davenport, Sean Payton's already said they expect him to play in that 3rd preseason game. How much does he need to catch up? Is it go without saying?
Yeah.
And can he catch up in a week?
He needs to catch up a lot. I mean, the guy has been out for 3 weeks. I was looking at my notebook the other day. It's July 30th was his last time out on the practice field. So, they had him today. Even all the defensive line are all getting together and doing these team drills. He's off to the side and doing individual work, and they're trying to ramp him up. I think we'll see him in the game, but he needs to be in there. Because he was raw from the beginning, and he had a lot of catching up to do from the beginning. He's got great skill, but they need to give him some actual game reps.
Will practicing against the Chargers kind of give Peyton a better idea of where he is?
I think so.
More so than what practice can?
Yeah, I think so. You know, because he's been getting his tail whipped by a pretty good left tackle in Teron Armstead. Yeah,
good person to practice again. Yeah. Two more things. What do the Saints hope to accomplish this week in L.A.?
Well, first of all, they're just getting to see a team in a different uniform, and that should give them a better analysis of their own players, because they're not seeing them go against the same guys over and over and over again, where they can learn, you know, okay, this guy sets up this way and I can take advantage of him this way. It's all new, and you aren't seeing the same plays either. So, you know, I think just from that standpoint, these sorts of weeks can be helpful, and you can see maybe guys turn up the competition a little bit when they're facing somebody else and they kind of want to show out. So I think these weeks are really, really helpful. I think it's going to pay dividends for the Saints.
One last thing, Drew Brees will play in this third preseason game. We'd be shocked if he doesn't. It was the third game last year when he played. Will everything be all right in the Who Dat Nation world if Drew Brees plays well? It's almost like they're saying, you know, when Brees gets back, everything will be fine. Right. We can move forward then.
I think so. You know, I think if you look at every other aspect of this team, the special teams has looked pretty good. Yeah. Defense looked pretty good against Arizona. The run game looks good. The passing game has been the only thing that, you know, outside of a few big plays to Traquan Smith, it's just been kind of quiet. I think you get 9 back in there, and we'll kind of start seeing the team that we all kind of imagined we'd be seeing, you know, once the regular season rolls around.
Okay, we'll leave it right there with Luke Johnson of NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. First of many times here on the Final Play. Thanks, Luke.
No problem. My pleasure.
Still to come on the Final Play, our rookie report. How are the team's youngest and least experienced players doing so far? Chris Hagan will answer that question. And later, we'll head to campus for check-ins on the Tigers, Greenies, Lions, and Colonels, because the start of the college football season is just 12 days away.
You're watching the Final Play.
This week's Fox 8 Catch of the Week will be a double dose of goodness, and it comes from the Saints-Cardinals game Friday night. And although it was a simple pitch and catch between J.T. Barrett and Michael Floyd, and J.T. Barrett and Keith Kirkwood, it was a reminder that in Barrett, the Saints may have a guy that's worth keeping around for a while after final cuts, especially if he can continue to spin it like this. 2 throws by Barrett to warrant Fox 8's Catch of the Week honor. In last year's training camp, it became apparent early on that some of the team's rookies were going to be relied on heavily during the season, and they were. It's a bit of a different story 1 year later, though. This year's rookie class doesn't have the same pressure on their shoulders as a year ago, but that doesn't mean they won't contribute in the regular season. Chris Hagan has tonight's Rookie Roundup.
While we're yet to see rookie defensive end Marcus Davenport in a preseason game, there are still a few other rookies we're keeping a close eye on that could have an impact on this team in 2018. That starts with none other than wide receiver Traquan Smith. With Cameron Meredith still shaking off the rust and quite a bit of it from missing the 2017 campaign, Smith and his reliable hands have a chance to be a big part of the black and gold offense, especially in the red zone. Coming off their first preseason game where he led the Saints receiving, he did it again against the Cardinals, hauling in 3 catches for a team-high 60 yards. But more impressive than his ability to rack up yardage after the catch is his personal drive to never settle.
I feel like I played, good. I could have done things better. Like I had a couple, misalignments. If I didn't have, misalignments, I'd probably been a little, more happy.
For Smith and most of the receivers that Peyton says haven't performed as well as he'd like, it'll be another week of getting back into the playbook and eliminating those mistakes. But also in Smith's case, the potential is unlimited.
So you watch him, he can catch back shoulders where some of the guys in the past had really struggled with doing those things. And then he can run across the field. That takes a different skill set. And once he's downfield, he can adjust to the ball with the best of them. And so he is both. He's a deep threat and, he comes in and out of breaks pretty good for a taller kid.
As for fellow rookie Boston Scott, we saw just a little bit more of the Zachary High School product. Once again, he had a chance to show what he's got on special teams, but contrary to popular belief, the Saints are more interested in what Scott brings to the backfield than the return game, despite his smaller frame.
I thought he had some juice in the running game. We wanted to give him more carries tonight than he had gotten last week. One of the things, we're working with him as a returner, but the thing that caught our eye was him with the with the ball in his hands as a runner, and I thought he did some good things.
As you learn, things start to slow down for you a little bit more, but like I said, I still have to continue to work on my fundamentals. You know, I'm a long way from where I want to be, but, you know, we're getting better every day.
And for Scott and brother Martin's own Will Clapp on the offensive line, Friday night also marked their first time wearing the black and gold for the team they grew up rooting for in front of the home crowd. And it's a moment they won't soon forget.
Obviously, it was a dream come true. You work your whole life to get to the NFL, and my first home game in the Dome didn't disappoint.
It's just a real experience. I think we have some of the best fans in the nation. It's really a dream come true. It was amazing.
Reporting on the Saints, I'm Chris Hagan for the Final Play.
Be sure to pull up your Final Play app to check out Chris Hagan's Extra Point blog. With fantasy drafts right around the corner, Chris has all you need to know to win that fantasy league. Still to come on the Final Play, the decision to leave LSU could end up being the best decision Lowell Narcisse has ever made regarding his footballing future. We'll hear from the former St. James Wildcat on what comes next when the Final Play continues.
You're watching the Final Play.
Take what you can get until you can get what you want. That's something my mom always told me about life in general, and it's something that's playing out right now in the life of Lowell Narcisse, the former St. James High School quarterback who grew up wanting to play quarterback at LSU, but has to take what he can get right now. Here's Garland Gillen.
Lowell Narcisse came out of St. James a four-star quarterback with a ton of potential. At LSU, he redshirted in 2017 and was ready to step up this season and finally get on the field. The Tigers put a package in for Narcisse that focused more on his running skills, but wouldn't exhibit his throwing prowess. So Narcisse left LSU and now calls Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College his home.
When you set a standard and you believe in yourself, you don't settle for things that's nothing less than your expectation, you know, and those guys was trying to, you know, use me in certain situations that I didn't agree with. So I just felt like the best thing for me to do was kind of move on and take my talent somewhere else.
Now Narcisse is focusing on playing time and trying to get back to Division I football.
I talked to some of the guys yesterday. I told them it's no different, you know. All of us here to prove a point. You know, I came here trying to prove a point and trying to get back to schools I want to play for. And those guys out here trying to prove a point, trying to get them offers. So we're all in the same boat.
Yes, he wants to get back to Power 5 football, but success for the squad is also a priority.
Come here to win, you know. I told this guy yesterday, I sat down and talked to the team, and I told him, you know, I came in to win a championship, you know, and I'm selling nothing else for that. So I'm going to rise those guys and pick their expectations up and kind of show them the route of what it takes to be a winner.
The Bulldogs opened their season August 30th against Mississippi Delta Community College. Garland Gillen, Fox 8 Sports.
Thanks a lot, Garland. After a lackluster 2017 season that finished with an even worse performance in their bowl game, it's fair to ask the question to this guy, head coach Ed Orgeron. What has he done to inspire confidence in LSU football? During fall camp, we've now seen 2 quarterbacks transfer, 3 players suspended indefinitely. The latest on the latter, wide receiver Drake Davis, arrested last night for second-degree battery. Predictably, Coach O would not comment on it further than calling it a legal matter. But if your biggest concern is with the football team, well, he offered his usual response on that as well.
I think the leadership on this team has been fantastic. We'll block out the noise. There'll be stuff during the season that we're going to have to handle. I think the maturity of this football team has showed that we block out the noise and we move on, we take the next step. We'll deal with the matter at hand and we move on.
Something that's held LSU back for years on the football field could hold them back again this season. Quarterback play. A lot of unknown remains, with a position that's still looking for a starter, and head coach Ed Orgeron's running out of time to name his. The Tigers begin the season in 2 weeks, and neither Joe Burrow nor Miles Brennan has done enough to distance themselves from the other. Take yesterday's scrimmage, for example. The 2 QBs were combined 15 of 43 passing for 167 yards and 1 touchdown, and both threw an interception. And neither has given Tiger fans much to be optimistic about.
Obviously, we couldn't get our quarterback live. I told the rushers to buzz off. They couldn't even get close to the quarterback. So, you know, there could have been a lot more sacks today, a lot less sacks. You don't know in a live situation, but there's a lot less sacks than there were the first scrimmage, a lot less penalties than there were on the offensive line, and a lot less holding.
Coming up, we'll crisscross the boot with stops at Tulane, Nichols, and Southeastern as all 3 find themselves within 2 weeks of kicking off the season.
watching The Final Play.
Tulane will be one of the first Louisiana schools to play a real game this fall. They'll kick off their season against Wake Forest August 30th, and the players have been calling that game, which will be played in Ullman Stadium, a tone setter for the season. The big bad ACC team coming into their house, expecting to handle the smaller American Athletic Conference minnow in Tulane. That's part of the Greenies' motivation. The other part remains missing out on a bowl game by inches last season.
I mean, it fuels you because until something like that happens to you, you really take it for granted. I mean, since I was 5 or 6 years old, coaches always told me it was a game of inches, and it went in one end and out the other. Until it actually happens to you and you see that your whole season ends by an inch, it's tough. I mean, that's not something you'll forget.
2 days after Tulane kicks off their season, we'll begin to find out if Nicholls State is as good as their preseason rankings suggest they are. They're 18th in the FCS and open on the road at Kansas on September 1st. The Colonels are in unfamiliar territory in that they'll be trying to live up to some lofty expectations. But head coach Tim Rebowe says, first things first. They've still got a lot to work on before the season kicks off.
There's so many situations that you got to try to get to into a game. A lot of goal line stuff, a lot of red zone stuff, a lot of last play stuff, a lot of 2-minute things. And we've just been trying to, for both sides of the ball, defense got to get a good look at that, and the offense got to get polished up.
Over in Hammond, head coach Frank Selfo is still trying to figure out some things, some important things like who his starting 11 will be on offense. Most of the pieces are in place, but he's holding his cards close to his vest, especially at quarterback. Battling for the job right now, a pair of juniors in Lorenzo Nunez and Chason Virgil. Both have looked sharp since practice kicked off weeks ago.
Yeah, it's good. We got some guys that are competing like we do at every position. So all the positions up in the air, we'll make a decision when we need to, at least by the first playing date.
For all of these teams, kickoff is under 2 weeks away, beginning with Tulane hosting Wake Forest and Southeastern playing at UL Monroe on the 30th. September 1st will be a busy one with the Colonels, Southern, and Grambling State all getting their seasons underway on the road. And on the 2nd, you've got LSU taking its show away as well to Arlington, Texas to face the Miami Hurricanes. And that's our show for tonight. For all of us here at Fox 8, I'm Juan Kincaid. We hope you'll join us again next Sunday night for The Final Play.
From Fox 8 Sports, this has been The Final Play.